Hello, Merry Newmas and a Happy New Christ. Sorry, Happy Yearmas and a Merry Christ. Happy holidays. Here to see you into the festive season is the usual cast. So Alex, Paula, and I are going to be telling you all about the things that we've played, beaten, and retired. This week we're going to be talking about our Christmas gaming memories. And we've also got a question from the forum about upcoming innovations in gaming. And we'll tie a bow on this little Christmas gift with a game we like to call How Long to Beat the Game.
So off.
Fix it, Poe. Yeah. We're getting worse from week to week.
Yeah, one day we'll get there, right? We'll get there someday.
But on a positive note, despite a 3-day turnaround, because somebody, Paula, went and had a medical emergency, so inconsiderate, we have all somehow managed to get a completion in there between the last recording. So why don't you kick us off, Paula, and tell us what your completion was?
Thank you, Rick.
Dripping in sarcasm.
Me? Never.
Okay, so last night I finished Night in the Woods. And this is actually like the game of the month. I think I said it like 3 days ago. I don't know. Yeah, but it was an experience. I'm still like trying to process it all because like so much stuff happens in the game that is like, what's the word I'm looking for? Very, very like you are on something.
Oh, like kind of surreal?
Yeah, some of it is kind of surreal.
Trippy, then, is that what you mean?
Trippy, that's the word I was looking for.
There you go.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And in the end, I wasn't really expecting this particular game to tackle like real shit, like so I'm still like trying to process it all for the maybe discussion at the end of the month if we're doing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to beat it this week.
No pressure, Alex. Don't worry.
Yeah, or depending on which leaks are or aren't accurate, they might be giving it away in a few days. If they do, I will play it. If they don't, I probably won't.
Oh, right. If they're giving the game away.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's one of the epic freebies, I think. But I don't own it, and it looks interesting, but not enough for me to spend more money I don't have on a game that I probably won't get around to playing.
That's fair.
The backlog is real.
Yeah, it do be like that.
Would you say it's worth, Paula, like me finishing it up? Like I know because I sort of just petered off on it, but I'm
kind of curious on what are your thoughts on the game, because like I don't think any two playthroughs are the same.
Okay. You know, it's interesting because I retired that game, but I actually remember quite a bit of the story of it, like, which is probably a good sign. Like, I retired that game almost like well over a year ago, I think. And yet, when I think about it, I still go like, oh yeah, I remember the town, I remember the friends, I remember what was happening. So I'm like, it's probably a good sign that it's a pretty good game if it's like sticks that well in my mind at least.
What was the deal then? Did you just bounce it off it, or did life stuff happen, or?
I think it was a bit of all of that, because it wasn't really, it's sort of like, you know, when I stopped playing The World Ends With You, how it was like, it wasn't because that game was bad or anything. It was just like, you know, sometimes your interest just sort of wanes, or you hit a moment in the game where it's like a little bit of a lull and you just sort of like fizzle out. I think that's what happened with Night in the Woods. I hit a part of the game where you have to do some like platformy stuff and it was just not great. And I think I was kind of like, I don't really want to push through this. I think it's the trippy stuff that you might be talking about, Paula. And I was just like, yeah, I'm sort of like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't really feel a drive to push through it, but yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else on that one, Paula?
No, probably. Nice. Probably I put some thoughts in the forums when I actually find my thoughts about the game.
Fair. Okay, well then, yeah.
But it was really like it wasn't like a masterpiece or anything, but it was good.
Cool. I might prioritize that then this week just to get that in there. Nice. Why don't I pop off, because I played a game that you recommended last week. I played Florence and beat it yesterday. It it was on sale on the eShop. And it was like only really a few cents cheaper than the iOS version on sale, but I was like, whatever. It's really nice to play on the Switch because, you know, it's all touchscreen, and they've adapted it really beautifully to the Switch's screen. Like sometimes, yeah, right. Sometimes those phone games that were like originally on a phone, when they transport it over, it doesn't work really nice. But this one actually, like, they clearly remade it to work on the Switch. So it was really, really beautiful, and it's a really sweet, nice little game, right? It's not overly, it's not intense really. It's an experience that almost all of us go through at some point, or something similar to it, right? And I think it was just really well done. Like it did not overstay its welcome. It's extremely short. I probably beat it. My Switch, like I use the parental controls to track my time. It said I beat it in 25 minutes. I think it was a little bit longer than that. I put it at like 35. It's pretty short. But it can be longer if you spend more time looking at everything, because it's beautiful. Like it looks like a hand-drawn animation and stuff. Like that's what it looks like. I'm sure it's digital, but it's beautiful. And there's not really gameplay per se. There is sort of but the mechanics that they create, they all have like an impact on the story. So there's one example that I thought was really neat, where they have you when you're going on like a first date, and there's speech bubbles, right? You don't see any text. There's no speech, like Paula mentioned, but you have to like drag these little puzzle pieces together to create the speech bubble. And as they're getting more comfortable with each other, the puzzle becomes less and less complicated until it's basically solving itself. And it's really cute. And I was like, oh, this is smart. Yeah. And then it comes back later in the game in different ways, which I won't talk about too much. But yeah, it was just really good. It was really sweet. It's like a nice completion to just kind of like, you know, you hit it out and you go like, that was a fun moving experience. I'm happy.
Yeah,
I feel that.
That was the thing I was saying, that the gameplay kind of served the story of the game more than being a thing on itself.
Yeah, I agree. It was really a case of like, they made it very clearly for this medium, you know, like it probably could have been a comic if you wanted, but I think it would actually be less impactful if this was just a comic, you know, which shows that they did a good job, I think. Anywho, that's Florence. Play it. It's on sale in the eShop, half off. It's also only like $3 on iOS if you want. So just pick it up, have some fun.
And speaking of games that didn't outstay their welcome, segue. The game that I beat this week, 3 days, weekend, whatever, was Rayman 3 for the Game Boy Advance, which I've tongue firmly in cheek in our show notes put the Super Mario World killer, which I'm baiting people basically. I did have a better time with it than I did with Super Mario World, but it's clearly not as good a game from a constructed perspective. It is good fun. It was good fun for as long as it was there, so they actually do quite a lot to mix it up. So as well as the platforming, which was good but had the same problems that I talked about last episode in terms of the camera being zoomed in and the level map being a bit of a clusterfuck. But as well as the general platforming, they had a couple of sort of Mode 7 racing zones, 2 different configurations. They had a couple of auto-running segments when you're on the rockets. And there was a really random final boss segment thrown in where Rayman's suddenly in like a little pint-sized spaceship thing. And you've got to avoid missiles and get the homing to send them to the boss. And it mixed it up, is what I'm basically trying to say. And it's definitely something that I noticed versus Super Mario World, where that felt like you were playing the same level again and again and again, at least to me, coming at it from the perspective that I did. Whereas Rayman felt like it did do quite a lot with boss battles, as well as all the other stuff that I've mentioned, to divert your attention and do things a little bit differently through the playthrough, which was less than 4 hours for me.
Oh, nice. It sounds a little Donkey Kong-ish, like Donkey Kong Country, you know? Like it reminds me of...
Wouldn't know, never played him.
Oh, did you? You'd probably like Donkey Kong Country because it's hard as balls now, but like there's a lot of that where like they mix up all of the like the gameplay. So like sometimes you have animals you ride through. Sometimes a lot of people hate the minecart segments, but those are like the auto rail things. I love the minecarts so much. And then the boss battles are all really inventive and interesting. So like it sounds to me like it's borrowing more from the Donkey Kong legacy than it is from Mario legacy.
It could well be. They certainly seem like they have more in common superficially, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I do have returns on the 3DS. I put the cartridge in to check it worked. I think I played the first level and then sort of bounced completely off it. For whatever reason. I don't particularly remember why.
They're not easy games. Like, I'll be honest. I think... See, I grew up with it on the Game Boy Color, and I played the shit out of Donkey Kong Country, and like that is a hard...
You played that version.
Yeah, which is even harder, I think, because you can't see as much.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter. I loved that game. But yeah, they're tough. Honestly, Tropical Freeze, I think, is like one of the best ones out there. And just play with Funky Kong on the Switch, and it makes it so much more fun. he can step on spikes and stuff with the surfboard, so you can avoid some like stupid deaths. Which, like, if you want to really challenge yourself, don't play Donkey Kong or whatever. But if you want to just have some fun, Funky Kong. I also recommend it as like a way to learn all the levels, and then you can really challenge yourself after. It's like, oh yeah. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. Yeah. 4 hours, huh? I might try that out then. I got my little Game Boy.
Yes, it's worth a playthrough, and if you hate it, you can just get rid of it. Because you've got the retro thing, haven't you? So you've got like 0 investment cost. You can just download it.
Exactly. I probably already own it.
Wow, there you go. Wow. Own in the loosest possible sense.
Well,
speaking of other things you own, why don't you tell us about the thing you own and are no longer playing?
Yes, so my retired this week, which might be a little controversial. Actually, I think this will make a lot of sense when I explain it. So I don't know, retired might be a really strong word for this. It's more like I've removed it from the playing tab of my How Long to Beat, and it has returned to the backlog, and that's Cyberpunk 2077. I just I think Frozen Roy was talking about this too. I think we were talking about this on the Discord, and like, this game is a mess right now, and it works well on the Series X. It does work quite well, but it is still very buggy. I mean, I remember I was doing one of the first missions, and like they have like that big Jackie's holding that big crate with the bot in it, and at one point it was just gone. There is just Jackie standing over a table, and there's just nothing there, and he's tinkering with like a bot, and I was like, what is this? Is this like a game from the early 2000s? Like, which I can forgive in those games, because it's like, yeah, they didn't have the like time to like fucking program it so it looks like he's typing on a real, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, whatever, which I'll talk about later. Actually, that's a funny thing from a game I'm playing right now. But I was like, you know what, they're patching this game every other goddamn day. They're eventually going to release an optimized Series X version. I own the game right now. I have so many other games I want to play. I was like, I might as well just wait. And like, I was already waiting for this game to come out. And it's like, obviously I was excited for it, but I was excited for like the game to be functioning and like full, and I really like what I've played so far. Like, it is excellent. And I don't know. I'm just pissed at the freaking leadership of CD Projekt Red at this point, which clearly the developers are too, which feels nice. Like they had a really heated video call, apparently, the developers and the leadership team, where the developers were like called them out and were like, what the fuck? It was like, which I was like, nice.
Oh my god.
Yeah, oh yeah, they were so pissed. What?
If you spent near a decade on a game and the bed was shat on from above, you would be fuming. Of course,
exactly. I'd be so pissed. Like I said, they're artists, right? And they're like, we want people to like our game. We don't want we don't want people to like shit on our game like this. So anyway, that's why I've retired it for now. I'm going to pick it back up. I mean, look, there's a chance I'll pick it up over the break. But I did get some new games in some of those Christmas sales that are already on. So there's a chance that I'll just
talking about those in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. We'll probably talk about some of those next week. So yeah, I just felt like, you know what? Let's just put it on the back burner for now. I'm not losing anything by doing that. I already own it. And then when it's like fully optimized and good and patched, I'll just burn through it and have a great time,
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so that's the plan.
Should we do a little Cyberpunk round table then? Because Paula, you've been watching your boyfriend play it still, haven't you? There's no other retirements, and then we can bleed it into playing. How's your boy? He's on PC, isn't he?
Yeah, he's on PC. He actually turned up the the CPU and the motherboard of his PC, and the game is running so much better now.
Nice.
There you go. It's not CDPR's fault. This is what it is. We just didn't have the hardware.
I mean, I'm on a Series
it's
X.
still buggy as hell. Like, it's still buggy as hell. No amount of specs is going to fix the bugs.
Yeah.
Especially if Jackie is stuck behind a door and you have to restart the game to do the goddamn mission.
Oh no. Oh no.
Well,
yeah, that was like weird at the start. So
I mean, you saw on PC, right? 8 megabyte save files are literally fully corrupted and won't load. So it's like,
yep. I actually have to.
And their solution is literally don't craft items.
Don't craft items
in a game in a game, as Jude helpfully pointed out on the forum, that has a fucking crafting skill tree.
Oh my god!
You couldn't make it up, and it makes it harder and harder for me to not defend the game, but justify why I'm having such a good time with it. Because I haven't had these problems. I get that they're happening, but I have had like.
You haven't had like an NPC like deposing on the screen like randomly or something like that?
Literally not even once.
Damn, you're
I've
lucky.
Had things, but
You're lucky.
Especially for being on PS4, since the 1.04 patch, I haven't had a single crash. I had a few sort of in my opening 7 or 8 hours, but again, I lost no progress. I've had to make saves and load them immediately twice to unglitch things from the surfaces. That is the extent. Oh, and I've had some instances of the audio not playing when I fire my gun, and that's it. But all superficial shit.
Yeah.
Once the crashes stopped happening, and that isn't to diminish what other people are having, because obviously it's fucked. The game shouldn't have released in the state they've released. But from a purely selfish point of view, I've had 30 hours of bliss so far. and my only quandary now is whether or not I do what you've done, Alex, and park the game for a few weeks, because as I understand it, and to be fair, some of the news reports are a bit unclear on whether it's a purely PC problem or if it's all the platforms. That save file thing is concerning. My playstyle isn't one where I expect that I'd be running into it, but I also don't fancy getting to the 80-hour mark and being on the final stretch.
Right.
And then just being stuck with no way of progressing. So...
There's oh my god. It seems like the memory problem with the save files only happens on PC, because like I actually asked around and someone on the PS4 or PS5 has like 12 megabyte save file.
Oh,
no problem.
Okay.
Oh, I said millibytes earlier, didn't I?
Megabytes,
that's what I meant. Sorry.
We knew what you meant.
I think for some reason it only happens on PC, from what I've heard.
PC Master Race heard.
That's interesting. Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, I doubt I'm going to run into a lot of problems, like, especially on the Series X, right? Like, I'm like, this thing is kind of, so like, apparently the game can recognize when it's being played on a Series X or a PS5, and it allows like a little more, and that's why obviously it's been playing very well for me, right? Like, it's at 60 frames per second, and then like it's great, but I don't want to risk it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't want to pour so much into this game just to find out that I discovered that one bug that no one knew about yet.
Yeah. The one that randomly touches your brand new console and makes it into a toaster.
Yeah. And again, like you said, Rick, too, though, like, it's a good game. And that's why this breaks my friggin' heart for the developers, you know?
Because it's soured for so many people. Yeah. Apart from just the developers. Like, I've had friends who've been waiting for the Sony refunds and who just can't see any positives in the game. And they're just at that point where, you know, when you're annoyed about something and there's a few legitimate complaints, and then you just start yourself going and the wheel's spinning, and then you're like, and another thing. And there's just no redemption at that point. And it does suck. Particularly as someone who was sort of a big evangelist of the game before and is having some of that ire directed back at me with some justification. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not your fault that you like the game. I mean, that's fine.
No, but I do have like a weird survivor's guilt thing going on for having such a good time. It's a whole bundle of emotions. It's quite bizarre.
You're like sitting in the corner, everyone's like screaming, and you're like, oh, it's kind of fun, you know? Shut the fuck
up! That's literally me. But it's weird because I feel like I've only just scratched the surface as well. Like I'm on about 30 hours of gameplay. I haven't progressed any of like the 3 main branches that the story goes on in the second act.
Damn.
I'm still in Watson. I'm still bouncing around just doing random side content and missions. I have made a couple of forays out for specific things. So for anyone who's played deep into the game, there's a side quest related gun called Skippy, who's got like an AI in him. And he is very like the way the world map is set up. Paula knows what I'm talking about. Bum, bum, dee bum, bum, bum. If you know, you know. The gun is far down on the map, and the map is sort of laid out. The highest points are the least difficult, and the idea is that you move through Night City, and the difficulty moves up with you, roughly speaking. Yeah. So that gun is sort of 2/3 of the way down. I sort of had to go in, avoid all the contact, all the combat, get the gun, because there's no mission associated. If you know where it is, you just go and fucking pick it up, and then sort of jet again. But other than like the odd bit like that, I've just been bouncing around Watson and having a good time, and haven't done anything with the story. Haven't really thought about the story. I mean, quite a few reviews have pointed this out, but the story isn't really the strength of the game. The strength of the game is the world and the emergent stuff and some of the side stuff. Of course, the first 2 of those 3 are where some of the bugs are rearing their heads the most, and that's part of the problem.
That's why I want to wait, right? It's because I'm like, the thing that I'm actually the most excited about is the buggiest part, and I'm like, I'm just gonna wait, because the story, like, I just felt like I had to burst through Act 1, and I was like, oh Jesus Christ, just let me go do cool shit. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
though
I get that.
It is good though. Like, don't get me wrong, the like Act 1 story is actually really compelling, but it's just, you know, like, I'm just like, come on, little gamer wants to play.
Yeah, it's kind of like an awesome dessert, but you've been given a thimble to eat it with. You're just like, I want a proper bite.
Exactly, yeah. Why don't we move on then to what we're playing, since you're already talking about that good thing.
Yeah, I'll roll into the other stuff. And to be fair, Cyberpunk has been the bulk. I still haven't played any more of Blasphemous. I haven't played any more of Rabbids Go Home. I've done a little bit more of Reky. That's still great. Still a great puzzler. The one new playthrough, and it's not even really a new playthrough, is Drill Dozer for the GBA, which this is technically my 2.5 playthrough. So I played it way back in the day on an emulator. The start of this year, it was like a bit of a retail therapy thing with the pandemic just becoming a thing. I spent way more than I feel comfortable with on an original cartridge, because they never came to the West, or they never came to Europe rather. They were in America and Japan. So I had to import a copy, and it cartridge only, no box instructions, but I don't really mind about that.
You should have told me, but I got a complete box over here.
You haven't even let me tell you the worst bit, which is going to make you laugh even more. Yeah. I got it for a better price than it would have been, because it was fucking disgusting. It was not well taken care of. So I spent about 20 minutes, and the cartridge, because it's got the motor in the top, there's like all these textured bits on the top.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I scraped some unholy gunk out of those. It was actually quite traumatizing. But it is very pretty right now. It reads okay, it runs okay. Nice. It vibrates okay. And the motor genuinely is a game changer.
It is. It really is.
It felt like a whole new playthrough with the force feedback. And I think that's the only time I've ever felt that way about haptics. It's also partly why I'm quite excited about DualSense and the impact that potentially has. But so I played through the game a second time, and then there's all the secret missions that you can do afterwards. And I thought, well, this is when the September release was still happening for Cyberpunk. I thought, well, I'll put it down for a couple of weeks, and then I'll play the secret missions. It'll be a nice little sort of palette cleanser alongside Cyberpunk. Of course, Cyberpunk got delayed. I forgot about it. And then I was having a spring clean, and I saw the cartridge again. I was like, oh yeah, I was going to go back and play that, which I'm now doing. And it's nice. They're actually challenging, the secret was, because the main playthrough is actually a bit of a breeze in a good way. It's nice and painless and comfy. But with the first secret level, even, I found myself struggling to remember how all of it works, because it's expecting you to make multiple drill jumps and switch directions and do things on a quick timer. I'm having a lot of fun, but for a different reason that I had fun with the base game. So it's nice so far. We'll see how much patience I've got for it, I suppose.
Fun fact, that's the game that kicked off my old backlog blog. Was good old Drill
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Although that backlog blog is long dead now because this podcast takes up my life when it comes to how long to beat. I always tell myself, yeah, I'll go write up some descriptions of the games I've beaten. I'm like, no, I won't. Paul, I'm impressed
what
you
need
keep
to do
it
is
up.
start like a
What?
You need to start like a clips channel and just cut your bits out and post them in the blog.
Yeah, there you go. I'll just be like, go to this section of the YouTube video to hear what I think about this game. Not a bad idea.
The lowest
actually.
of effort.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
What I do in the forums is like very light compared with what I tried to do like a long time ago. Because I actually was in like some video game Amino, I think. Yeah. And I ended up doing like a gaming blog there. And oh my god, writing like an actual description or review takes a lot of time.
It does. It does. Trying to get all your thoughts together, you're like, ugh. Actually, why don't we move right along then, Paula? Do you want to tell us what you are playing?
Oh, I play a little bit of Hyrule Age of Calamity. I'm still in that game. I'm still trying to get all the characters, and actually, 90% through getting one of those remaining 2 characters.
Nice.
Which is nice. Oh, well, and got realized Cyberpunk no Kiseki, which I haven't played in the last 3 days, but I hope I can jump right into it. Probably as soon as we finish this.
Pop off and get that thing going. Nice.
Get past the menu screen.
Get past the menu screen.
Yeah, well, I've got some new games to talk about. I'm playing Knights of the Old Republic 2, which, okay, some people have told me like you should really play this on the PC because there's the lost content mod or restored content mod, but I wanted to try it on my Series X, and holy shit, this game is buttery smooth on the Series X, and it looks really good. Like, weirdly good. Everything's really clean, sharp. It loads in like a second. Like, honestly, which I'm like, maybe it already did this anyway, but like whenever I go into a new area, it's just like I see the loading screen, it's like boop, and then it's just done. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. Saves in like a second as well. And it's just like, it's really fast. And it's
I mean, you'd hope so.
Yeah.
Given how old it is and how new the tech is.
Well, yeah, but you'd also think too, though, right? Like sometimes it also just depends on like how the game was programmed, right? Like some games, even if you put them on really great hardware, they sometimes just take a while anyway. Like Mass Effect's elevators are always Mass Effect's elevators. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't matter how good the tech is. It's like do 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 do. You know, right? Or like going through those, like, you know, in games in like the PS4 era. I think the PS4 and the Xbox era is going to be known for the like, you need to now shimmy through this tight crack. You know, it's like
the FF7 remake situation.
Right? Yeah, this isn't a loading screen. This is gameplay. So you like push forward to like sidle through something. Anyway, that game is awesome. Awesome. Like, I have been enjoying it so much. It is so much fun. The writing is excellent. It's like such an intriguing story. I've just hit the point now. Like, I'm probably 8 hours into the game, and I've hit the point where I don't remember what happens. So like, I've seen kind of the last person that I remember having played with, Astrid. And so for those who know the game, they'll know where I'm at. Yeah, I just love it. It's just so good. It's just so good. And it's Obsidian's very first game, which is kind of nuts that like they started off with Knights of the Old Republic 2, and that was their start. I think I'm going to go on a bit of an Obsidian kick. I want to play Fallout New Vegas again too after, but yeah, so I'm playing that. I also picked up this game on the Switch Lite, which was originally an Apple Arcade game, Grindstone. Works really lovely on the Switch because you can use the touchscreen, and it's kind of nice to have touchscreen controls and the button controls because it just kind of like I don't know. It's really intuitive because you can just like touch whenever you want, hit a button to like set it go. And basically the way this game works, actually, how do I best describe this? Think of it. It's like a grid puzzle game, where you have to sort of match things up. But the way it works is that you play as this like big barbarian dude, and you have all these monsters on the board, and they're all different colors. And essentially you can drag your guy, and what you're trying to do is you want to chain through all of the same color. And if you get over 10, you will create grindstones, and these are kind of the currency of the game, but they also allow you, when they drop, they'll allow you to chain to a new color. So the goal, and like each level has a bunch of different things on it, and there are, I think there's well over 100, maybe more levels in it, and it takes a while. Like I've been playing for a while now, and it is super fun. The mechanics are just so goddamn solid. It's beautifully like the art style is gorgeous and hilarious. It's got a good sense of humor. Great challenges. There's like daily challenges you can do and stuff, and it's really, really good. It's probably a little more expensive than might be comfortable because of the fact that you could play this on a $5.99 or like $4.99 subscription to Apple Arcade before. So like I think it's like $25 in Canada, but it's also on 25% off right now. So I got it for like $18, I think, which for me feels good. Like I really recommend this game. Like I'm really enjoying it, and it's that kind of fun puzzle fix. You're watching something and you're just like going to town in it, so it's really good. Yeah, and then I'm still playing Hades. I've actually gotten quite further in Hades now. I'm so close. I'm so close to breaking free. I'm like right there. I'm right there. But that game is excellent still. And Koudelka, I'm still going. Someone nominated Koudelka for Video Game Book Club for January. And this is me saying, yes, everyone, vote for it when it comes up. Vote for it. Because I'm not finishing it before December. So vote for it. That's it. That's all I'm playing.
Nice. And just before we move on to the topic, if anyone wants to hear a bit more about Grindstone, funnily enough, like I was listening to the developer Cappy. They've done a podcast with NoClip.
Oh, nice.
Today, talking about the process of launching it on Switch as a mobile title, working on it, how they made the gameplay fit a horizontal screen instead of a vertical one. They do great podcasts, great documentaries, and it's a really good listen. So if you fancy hearing more long-form audio content about video games, that's a great place to go and look.
Yeah, because it's seamless. Like their transition over, you would think it was a native Switch game, right? Like you would have no idea this was on a phone.
Yeah, that's what you want from your mobile ports. Like you say, it's, and to be fair, like I said with Reky, it's always a little bit jarring if you can see the mobile roots sort of growing out the back of the PC, as it were. Mm-hmm. Even if the game's fantastic, which Reky was, and Assemble with Care, which I mentioned last week, that was another one where you could just tell the way it was set out. It was designed for you to move things with your finger, really. But hey ho.
And that's why I was so glad, because like some developers don't do this, but they were like, no, we're going to fully utilize the touchscreen. And that's what makes it work so well. Like with a Switch Lite in particular, it's really great because you can hold the Switch Lite so comfortably in one hand and just like go through it so that it feels just nice and good. Yeah.
Nice. And speaking of nice and good feelings, there's no better one than Christmas. And with it being the season, what we said is this week, from our grab bag of topics that we have in our back pockets, we thought we'd pull out Christmas memories as they relate to games. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I will jump in very quickly, mainly because I've sort of talked about all these before. So I know for a fact I've talked about getting a Game Boy Advance for Christmas with Harry Potter, and sort of realising that trigger buttons were a thing. And then the other one, just briefly, which
wait, sorry, which Harry Potter was it that you got?
Chamber of Secrets.
Oh, was it the Game Boy Advance Chamber of Secrets?
You played the BBC version, which is the RPG one.
Yeah.
So I've heard. And to be fair, that's the roots that the Prisoner of Azkaban on Game Boy Advance came from, which I loved as a child. I think on that blog you're talking about, I think you described it as a great game to get high to.
Oh, I was so hard when I played that game. Like I don't drink or anything and stuff, and like, but occasionally I'm like, let's have an edible. And I'll be honest, whenever I did, I can't play games very well. You know, if I'm a little high, I can't play games. And in Canada here, weed's been legal for a while, so like the reality is just like I can't play many games. But Prisoner of Azkaban, I can sure play that.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So the thing with Chamber of Secrets is like it was almost an isometric Zelda title. In the sense that you equipped spells and you equipped items and the action buttons that you equipped them to with triggers. And I didn't quite realize that that's where they were. I was used to there just being an A and a B, and my little 5-year-old brain was like, oh, it's just like thinner and better screen and better games. And I think I'd been sat at this bit for 15 minutes not knowing what to do, and my dad sort of leaned over my shoulder and he's like, are there any more buttons you could press? I was like, what do you mean? And he said, look at these. And I was like, oh my god, I just pulled a face that's not really going to translate to audio, but it blew my little mind. And that was great. And the game's great. So if you also happen to have a Retroid and are looking for really random hidden gem Game Boy Advance games to go back to, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Rayman 3. There you go. That's your Christmas break sorted. And the other one, did any of you get a Wii on Christmas? Was that an experience any of you guys shared? There you go. And my parents pranked us. They were like, oh, I don't know if we're going to be able to get one. They're sold out everywhere. Not really sure. Later in life, I found out that they'd snagged it weeks prior and they were just messing with us. But on Christmas Day, they let us believe they haven't got it. We open all the presents. Like, oh, okay, we'll get one when they're back in the shops. And they're like, oh, we remembered something. Pull it out the back of the sofa. And we have that like N64 moment.
Nice.
Running around this room screaming, all of that.
I was on
that was great.
Oh, sorry. I was on an old Wii forum back in the day, like Wii Loaded it was called. So like I definitely had got the Wii that launch. Well, like Christmas launch, you know, like I was a child, so I couldn't get it launch, but my parents got that Christmas. Yeah. Oh, dude, playing. I have fond memories of that Christmas. We would play Wii Sports, like boxing and like all that stuff. And then I also got Twilight Princess.
So did we.
I love.
See
that
what I did
game.
there. So did we. That's awful. I will excuse myself from future episodes of this podcast.
Oh god.
But yeah, no, we smacked it. I mean, for the PlayStation 2, my parents sort of dropped the ball a little bit. We had to fix it in the Christmas sales. I think we picked up Ratchet and Clank and something else really good for PS2. But they'd sort of bought us some random snooker game, and F1 2003, we don't watch F1, we haven't got a clue, and just like some other random stuff. But they nailed the Wii. They got Twilight Princess, they got Big Brain Academy, which was like an actual big thing at the time.
That was huge
and I can't remember whether it was that Christmas or the Christmas after, but at some point we had Mario Galaxy as well, which I think is just okay, but my brother and most other people think is a Stone Cold classic. So
oh, sorry. I was just saying, like, I'm trying to think of the Wii games that we had. See, I have a horrific memory, so it's like it's really hard for me to remember the specific things we got. But I was like trying hard, and I think we had Twilight Princess, Wii Sports, and then it's possible we had WarioWare or Super Monkey Ball, and I think it might have been Super Monkey Ball. I know I had both of those in the end, but I think Super Monkey Ball was like a near launch title. And I remember playing the game sucked on the Wii, but
was that the adventure one that they had on PSP as well, where it was like an action adventure game, not like a puzzler?
No, I don't.
Or
no. Maybe this one was pretty good actually, because this is the tilt control one. No, I think this one stuck to its roots. I don't know. Super Monkey Ball went off the rail. went off the rails pretty quickly after that game.
Careful, we're gonna have to find a whole new panel if we're not careful.
Right. I do think that was the shite one though. I remember watching. There's some YouTuber, I can't remember his name. He does like a whole bunch on Super Monkey Ball, and he did this great thing on like that series, because of course the developer went on to do Yakuza and basically looks like a Yakuza now. And so like.
Yeah,
I'm convinced
I'm
convinced he's in with the Yakuza in some way or shape or form. Like, I'm pretty sure Sega is. Like, I think it's like a pretty widely known secret kind of thing. But anyway, so regardless, Super Monkey Ball kind of went downhill. But I remember playing those that Christmas. It was just good times. Good times. God, I would have been.
What about you, Paula?
Well, since it actually took me like years to actually get a console of my own. In 2012, it took me a whole year of talking my parents like into considering like allowing me to have a console, and that I'll be like, I'll behave, I'll do my homeworks like always and stuff like that. And after a year of studying hard to acing all my tests back in school, they got me a new 3DS XL, which was originally the red bottle, but I ended up like painting over it.
Oh, wow.
And making like a little sort of theme.
Nice. You definitely have to post a photo of that.
I'll probably have to post a photo of that. Not up in here because like the second time I painted it, I kind of tap and got gold all over the screen, but it is functional. And it still works. Like, it is 100% functional, and don't betray me, 3DS. Why is it not turning on?
That's like a dodgy eBay listing. 100% functional. It's like, well, I believed it until you felt the need to tell me it was 100% functional.
Right.
There. This one I actually jailbroke after I got my new 3DS, so I could patch Japanese games and stuff.
Mm.
Getting it like with Ocarina of Time, I remember like waiting for everyone to go to sleep and then immediately jumping into the game. And this is like the one game related thing that my parents have ever gotten me. Besides that, my siblings actually are like, hey, do you have any game you want for Christmas from time to time? So I'm actually like kind of guilty because like some of the games or most of the games I haven't actually finished. But I want
is real.
I
The
have
backlog is
played
real.
them, but I haven't finished them because I get distracted by other things and they're horrible. But yeah.
I get it.
Actually, I got Ni no Kuni last Christmas, and I actually started it. And we were playing like with my boyfriend, like each with a copy of the game. And somewhere along the way, I don't know, probably some visual novel released, and I was like, "Woo, tiny."
Never to be played again.
But I actually want to finish Ni no Kuni, and Age of Calamity was actually like my really early Christmas present. Because my sister plays Breath of the Wild too, and my nephew plays Breath of the Wild too. So we were all talking about this new Zelda game that was going to come out, and suddenly my sister said, like, "Oh, do you have any plans for like pre-ordering? Oh man, are you gonna buy the game?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm just waiting like for the beginning of the month to get my money and actually pay for it. Or like, oh, don't worry, it's gonna be your early Christmas present. I'm like,
your sister's dope.
I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
The irony is, there's every chance that you've like 100%ed it by Christmas.
I could actually 100% it by Christmas.
That's what I'm saying.
You're close. Hey, that's
early
the best Christmas
present
gift.
and early Christmas completion.
Yeah. And
on the Ni no Kuni thing, though, I do recommend you go back and finish it because that game is excellent. Like story-wise, it's super good.
It is, and I really love it so far. By my attention span is like.
Hey, this is the guy who just retired Cyberpunk, so like, no, I get it. The attention span thing is hard. I'm just like, I want to play that one. Oh, I want to play that one.
Nah. Just to branch this out ever so slightly, I don't know if this was just me. Did either of you two do the big sort of annual pilgrimage to the game shops for the game sales on like Boxing Day and the days after? Or was that just a me thing?
I often did that when I was older, though, because you know what? To be honest, and I'll talk. I still have two other little Christmas memories that I'll share in a minute. But I Boxing Day actually wasn't a thing really in Canada for a long time, especially in the Maritimes. So the 26th still is, I think, in the Maritimes, a full day off. No one goes out. There's no stores open at all.
What do you mean the Maritimes? Sorry, this is probably my ignorant show.
Okay, so the Maritimes in Canada are the provinces of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island, PEI. We call them the Maritimes because we're in the ocean, by the ocean, and we make most of our living off the ocean. So we're called the Maritimes, and we call people from there Maritimers. And that's who we are. So I'm a Maritimer. But basically, yeah. So basically on the 27th, that was the day where it was like, let's head into town. Let's get that. Because our parents would give us a little bit of money, or like, aunts and uncles and shit. So it would be like time to go in and get those things. So I'd be off to EB Games, which is like our equivalent of GameSpot. GameSpot is the news site.
Website, yeah.
I hated that so much. I was like, thank God it's EB Games here, because GameStop owns EB Games. Anyway, that's more complicated than it needed to be. But yeah, we'd go there and I would always get a game, and I'll probably do it again this year, except I won't go to a store. I'll just do it online. No. What about you? Yeah, Rick, Paula.
Yeah, on my case, like when I'm spending Christmas with my family, especially since the 25th is kind of like a holiday here, so no stores open, and if it's like a long weekend, like no stores open, I actually had to wait for a bit to actually have like my own money to try to get games like at discount after Christmas. And the good thing is, after I got to uni and after I got my own card, like a couple of years ago, I actually saved up money like during the year, because I knew that during like December, January, there were gonna be sales, either Steam sales or whatever sales from these other gaming places. And there's this gaming store called Todo Juegos that actually has like super low prices for stuff that has come out like
recently.
Like no, not necessarily recently. Like games that have like more than 1 year in the store get some crazy discounts. Like even like the PS4 and Xbox, and sometimes some 3DS games are like super low price. And before they turn to the dark side, WePlay and Zetamart actually had some very good prices after Christmas. So I remember like going crazy, and that was the year that I got my PS4. And I went out of my way and ordered a box full of games because they were like so cheap. And I actually got this special edition for Tokyo Sanaru, that is like a JRPG. And it had this giant statue, like this
We're talking about 60 centimeters tall for our audio listeners, which is all of you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. No, maybe it's like 50, no, 30 something, 40, I don't know. It is a big statue, and the game and the statue and the other stuff that came with it was like $30. I think the original price is 180.
Price. I mean, I expected no less from the mum and pop paradise that is Chile. I expected that Christmas deals would be good for you.
Yeah, it depends if you know where to look. Because if you don't, the deals suck.
If you're in the know.
If you're in the know.
How it is. If you know, you know.
Yeah. What about you, Rick? You said you hit him up?
Yeah, so because we would always spend Christmas with the extended family, we would always stay for a few days away from where I actually lived growing up, in a place that was very, very close to a very big shopping centre. So we wouldn't normally go on the 26th, because we normally spend the 25th and the 26th with various family in various different houses doing various different things. But come the 27th, we would normally make a day of going, not just for games, but for sale shopping generally, but there would always be Game, which is our equivalent of GameStop. There was also another one that was called something slightly different. It was Game something, but it didn't begin with an S, I don't think. Anyway, they merged eventually, but there was the normal straight up game shop. Growing up, there was still a few mom and pops that you'd be able to get things from, and then there was also the second hand retailers who would do sales or promotions or things like that over Christmas. So we got loads that way. And that was the golden time when those discounts were deep and quite frequent. I feel like when we hit PS3, PS4, that started to dwindle a little bit. But particularly for handheld stuff, GBA, DS, PSP when I got one of those eventually. And for the PS2 stuff, you would often get really deep discounts and really silly good discounts. So I'm struggling to picture specific games that I got very cheap. I know we got Ratchet and Clank for... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I can't remember a single game I got cheap after Christmas. It's just genuinely, like, it just vanishes from the brain, you know?
I know we did loads. I mean, I'm trying to pick a few out. So I know Ratchet and Clank we got for the PS2. And, I mean, that's one of my favourite series ever. And me and my brother played the shit out of that game. Both, like, separately and together, like, watching each other play. And that was the same with 2 and 3 and Clank. Anyway... Custom Robo Arena, if any of you played that on the DS back in the day, that was a Christmas purchase. That's a very good game. I'm not sure if it necessarily holds up now because it was 3D arenas with a D-pad control scheme, but I had a blast with it when I was little. And it was just generally an exciting thing to know where you've got some of this Christmas money that you've not put away in savings or done other stuff with that you can spend on whatever you want. And there's going to be loads of games, and there's probably going to be some that you wanted anyway that are super cheap. Mm-hmm. And that was almost as exciting, if not slightly more, than the actual things you were unwrapping because there was some agency in it.
Oh, big time.
Along with that surprise of what are you going to find. Mm-hmm. So that's a real strong Christmas gaming memory of mine, along with the consoles and the everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's me. Is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on that? I think you said you had a couple of bits, didn't you, Alex?
Yeah.
Or have you already hit those?
Do you want to go first, Alex?
Sure. Yeah, it's not super long. I have two other like console memories. So like I was looking back at it and I was like, I actually did get quite a few like gaming gifts. And the first one that I remember, and this was also the first console I ever received, was the Nintendo GameCube. And I got the purple GameCube. I think we just heard a little bark. That was a weird one too. I think she's having a nightmare. she's asleep. Sometimes she has she'll make like one little yelp sound in her sleep and then she'll just pass out. So anyway, yeah, Nintendo GameCube. I got a purple one and I can hardly remember what games I got with it because I don't think I got Wind Waker with it. I know I played Wind Waker eventually and played like the Master Quest, like I had that one where it had like Ocarina of Time on it. Yeah, but I don't know if that actually came with my GameCube or not. But one game that did come with it, and this is random goddamn game ever. It's called Vex, VXX.
I played that game
on the
PS2, but I played that game.
Oh my
God. A really weird acclaimed 3D platformer.
Yeah, and I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, right? It was weird. It was so like 2000s, like kind of like, yeah, you know, like he was like trying to be like cool looking. And he's like this clawed creature who's just like, and it's like, it's kind of like, you know,
it's like, early 2000s edgelord, but like kid friendly.
Exactly. And it was like Banjo-Kazooie, those kind of games. Like it's a collectathon game where you're like going to worlds and stuff. And I just remember playing that. And I think I think we also had like one of those like Disney Mickey Mouse games on there that was like pretty good. It's one of those ones that was like actually a fairly decent one. Yeah, I think that was the big ones though, and maybe Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, maybe that as well, which I've never understood that game. I never will, and stupid dumb game. So
It's kind of sad how bad they dropped the ball on that remaster. Because that really could have been a kick. I think everyone wanted that to succeed and it just didn't.
I know. I was like, oh, maybe this will redeem poor Alex, who was a child and didn't understand how to play this game. I just didn't know if I was winning or not. I was like, am I beating this game? What is happening? It just like kept going forever. So anyway, the GameCube, that was a big, just a beautiful, wonderful time. Smash Brothers came along pretty soon after, and like that whole thing was just the best. Yeah.
Tangent before you move on, I don't want to let Crystal Chronicles be completely sullied, because the 2DS games, Ring of Fates and Echoes of Time, actually very good. That's all I wanted to say. You carry on.
No, they are. And look, I mean, if you played it, like I said, as a kid, I had fond memories of the game. It was just confusing to me. The only other one I'll mention is like I also got a 360. And I don't know if it was Christmas. I'm pretty sure it was, but a 360 a few years later. It was either before or after the Wii. Who knows? That I got it, but I think it was after, actually, because I remember playing Halo 3. So the 360 had been out for a while. I had Halo 3. I think I had GTA 4, and I just remember playing with my buds, and like that was a great Christmas. Like the Xbox 360 was amazing. Oblivion, I was like, oh yeah, because I had played Oblivion. I tried to make our home PC work to play Oblivion, and it ran at about 4 frames per second, and so it functioned. I had to be stealth because I couldn't do combat, or else I would die immediately because it was so slow. So I was a stealth character, but I wanted to play that game so bad. And then eventually, when I got it on the Xbox 360, I was just in heaven. It was like, finally, I could play this game. Anyway, so those are my Christmas memories. Good old GameCube, Wii, 360. Paula, you had something you're going to add there, huh?
Oh yeah, that most of our Christmas memories that are like related to gaming has been like the more recent ones, because since I have my nephew, my sister and her husband and my nephew like spent 1 year with the in-laws family and one Christmas with our family. And the older my nephew gets, it's kind of like more fun. Like they wait for midnight and stuff, for example, because we actually like wait for midnight before opening the presents. And my like the last couple of years we were like playing like Mario Kart and stuff like that. And last year we actually spent the Christmas at my brother's place. And my nephew was getting like restless, and I was like, "Hey, I brought my Switch. Let's play some Mario Kart." And I didn't have the dock because, like, for some reason, I thought my brother had a Switch. I think he sold it off like a couple of days before Christmas. So I was like, "Well, we don't have a dock, but we can play on the screen." And my nephew was like, he didn't care like the screen was small or anything. He was just having fun. Nice. So that's the kind of thing that I like actually like being able to share something I like with my family. Which sometimes doesn't happen, because like especially my parents are more like not too keen on video games and stuff. But since we were at my brother's place, he called the shots and he was like, "Yeah, go ahead, play. Don't like that." Yeah, so like Joy-Cons played like anyone else wants to play.
Now that you say that, we did that, but with the DSs. I don't know if either of you, I think you maybe didn't, Paul, because you came a little bit after that. Did you ever do that, Alex? Mario Kart DS and loads of them paired up?
No, my brothers couldn't have given a shit about the DS. Like my middle brother was he was kind of like sportsy and more concussions than, I don't know, God gave a goose or whatever. Like he just so many, and like I love him, but yeah, he's right. Yeah. So he wasn't big on the DS. My youngest brother was just too young at the time, like when the DS was big. But we do the same thing, Paula, now. Like every year when I go home, because the middle guy, he doesn't play a ton of games, but he played Mario Kart so much in college that he is incredibly good at it. And so it's one of the few games he can beat me at, which is actually why it's really fun to play with him, because you know, sometimes I win, but sometimes I don't. And the reality is, like, everyone thinks like, oh, you want to like win, but like when I play video games, no, I don't care. Like, I want to play it and I want to like have that competition, right? And so like it's actually not fun, because if you're skilled at a game, this is like humble brag, right? You're like, if you're really skilled at a
boring.
game,
I know,
but you know,
saying,
yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? Like it's boring, and then they get upset because they're not winning, and they know if you let them win, right? Like it's just obvious in a game. So like it's really nice when we found this game that like he's super good at, and I'm pretty good at Mario Kart, enough to win sometimes, but I definitely don't win every time. And so it's really fun that way, because it's like, oh shit, I have to really try hard in this. So yeah, unfortunately I can't go home this year because of, you know, the pandemic, so won't have any
World
of that.
event.
Yeah, but we'll probably do Jackbox over Zoom.
Yeah, Jackbox is a great party game. We all had it was the perfect time for us, because me and my brother and all my cousins were all within a few years of each other, and we all had DSs, and obviously download play was a thing. So we just played loads of Mario Kart every Christmas for like 4 or 5 in a row. It was amazing. And now we're all a little bit past it, but we do play the Switch one sometimes. And my brother's done the same as your middle brother, where he got a Switch and I don't, and he plays lots of Mario Kart now and I don't. And now he actually beats me most of the time. Whereas on DS, I was the undisputed champion, which was still kind of fun, because obviously you get Blue Sheldon and Mario Kart is what it is. But it's like you say, it's nice to actually have to stretch your muscles and be able to have a good time regardless. Rocket League is probably my one of that, where it's like just way too easy and it's not fun to play with people that I socialise with outside of gaming, because I'm just, particularly with Rocket League, because there's quite a high skill ceiling, and I play it a lot. it's just obvious that I can do things that, to be fair, when I just picked up a pad, you just straight up couldn't do. Like aerials, for example, it took me a good couple of hundred of hours of playing the game before I'd mastered getting into the air in a straight line, let alone rotating the car and moving while you're in the air and all the other things. And it looks like fucking witchcraft to someone who doesn't play the game normally, when they've just sort of driven at the ball and then you're just sort of exo-setting through the air. It's something else. But yeah, I totally get what you mean on that. That's our Christmas discussion.
Yeah, there you go, Christmas. For family and games.
Yes, with my family, we're probably using Zoom this year. Might as well say like, hey, wanna play Among Us? When we're in friendship, some family.
Grandma, you're kind of sus.
I know, man. Among Us has like immediately been ruined for me just by how many. It's fine anyway. That's a whole other discussion. But I played it like once or twice, and I was like, this is fine, I guess.
You need the right people. With the right people, it's top tier. If you don't get the right group of people together, it's dead.
Especially
it's
if
made or broken.
Right. Especially if you're like decent at video games, and then you just walk through and you're like, slice. All right. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's game, I guess. All right. Why don't we move along then to our question for the week by Hesperide. You can correct me if that was wrong. Someone actually sent an email question this week, and I actually we'll answer their question next week. But they very helpfully provided how to pronounce the name, and so you know who you are, and I have to say thank you, genuinely. That's awesome. Though they said it was very funny. They're like, they enjoy the way that I was trying to say it, but
I love the idea that they've said it wrong in the email just for shits and giggles.
Oh, see, that'll be extra funny if that's the truth, but we'll find out. So the question is, what other innovations do you think or can imagine the gaming industry will give rise to in the coming years, not including things like streaming services and VR? Who wants to tackle this one? I've got some ideas.
I've got some thoughts, but they're a little bit outside of the box of what they've really asked. So I'm hoping that you guys will sort of actually tackle the question, then I can just chat.
Sure. I have a thought and something that I think is coming, and it's sort of a little cheaty-ish because it's not VR, but I do think AR is like really on the way, and not in the way that we're using it right now. Like, you know, there's all the AR game, like mobile games and stuff, which I think is a paltry use of AR, and like a rather uninspired one in most cases, except maybe things like Pokemon Go was obviously like, yeah, that was a great idea. You know, that was an excellent idea. Some of the ones that have come after, I think, are just trying to kind of copy them. And it's like, come on, try something new. But what I think AR is going to have an influence on eventually is control. And so I think we're going to see innovations in how we control games in the future. Obviously, like, I mean, we've seen innovations since games have started, and like gaming is so new still, and really even the D-pad's not very old. Let alone the twin sticks is frankly very new. You know, like, I mean, basically the 90s, and like, so I feel that AR might provide a really interesting background because it has the potential for finger tracking, and it has the potential for allowing game developers to genuinely customize how they want their game to be controlled, which really to me feels like it's genuinely like the next hurdle in game development and in gaming in general, because at the moment games are extremely hampered by how you can control them, right? Like that is a genuine sort of like thing that holds back a lot of games. There's only so much that you can do with a controller, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes restraint breeds creativity and creates really fascinating things. But when you think about it, it's like, especially with a mass market appeal, you kind of have to have all your controls sort of being in a way that fits to a controller, which is sort of in this general shape. So I do think that there will be an interesting, I don't know how it's going to look and I don't know how it's going to catch on, but with the rise of VR, like I thought that was like not coming forever. Like no one was like, yeah, that's coming right now. And then like, it's like, holy shit, it's here. And their control schemes are so interesting. And I don't know. I can see a world and like, oh, what a world of accessibility that would be, right? Like they're already, like Microsoft's created beautiful accessibility controllers, and it's like, imagine a world wherein you have a device, maybe you can strap it on or something, but you have something that can track the fingers and allow you to actually manipulate the game in different ways. It's like, so I don't know. I just think that we're getting closer and closer to a world like that, and I'm really, really curious to see where it goes. Because like as someone who's experienced VR, a lot of the times you genuinely feel like you can just touch everything, and you can really actually like, there's almost like, it's just the tactile response. That's the thing that's important. So I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think control and AR are going to be probably the next two big innovations along my lines.
It's funny you mentioned Microsoft, because what you said sounded eerily similar to the Kinect pitch that was absolute bollocks.
Oh yeah, the Kinect's like a camera though.
I personally have misgivings about finger tracking tech. So I've tried VR myself. I want a headset. I'm not currently in a position financially or space-wise where it's viable for me. But I think the reason that works, where control has made things better, and this certainly has never been more stark for me than going back to some old Wii games and seeing how actually, quite frankly, bollocks some of the waggle was in terms of control. Those innovations work when they make it easier and more intuitive. So the reason some of those waggles didn't work, the reason Kinect didn't really work, is it was far too blunt. And so it was more of a problem to try and make your motion match what the thing was looking for than it was just to press a button where you've got certainty, you've got tactility. And I think the reason the VR stuff works so well is that moving your head to look around, intuitive. It's not difficult to map versus an analog stick. Ditto like Beat Saber waving your thing. Because it's one-to-one, it makes sense. Where I think what you're saying falls a little bit short is that the VR stuff works because you've got a grip button. And it makes sense that you squeeze the button, you squeeze the thing in game. I think if you try and map that to one-to-one finger motion, you're sort of you're closing your hand around an invisible, not real object. And it doesn't really, you're still muted, by the way.
I think you're misunderstanding what I meant, actually, which might be my issue. I'm not talking about nothing. I'm talking about augmenting a thing, right? So a physical object, augmenting physical objects, because that's a lot of where augmented reality is coming into. So it's like, it's a little bit VR, but it's in a different sense. So I'm talking being able to have customizable physical objects that you can augment onto different interfaces and different things. So for me, it's like an ability for creating customizable stuff. So again, I don't know if this is going to happen anytime soon, and I don't know what that looks like, but I just think, because imagine if, you know, you have a controller that has multiple, like many inputs, right? Many different things that you could put onto it that has a lot of different stuff involved, and it's not relegated to a certain thing, but then you can augment onto it the specific controls that you actually want to use and the specific buttons and things that you want. I just think that could be something that's interesting. I think it's very far off, but I also think that it's impossible to know what it'll look like, but I guarantee you augmented reality is going to be coming up in the near future in a big way, I think. Because
actually,
we'll see.
In the topic of augmented reality, I kind of remembered a little thing that happened like when I was just getting to university. There was this student from a group I was in. He was doing like some kind of research, I think it was for his thesis or something like that. And he programmed like a little AR application on the 3DS, where, you know how in the 3DS you can put like the AR cards, and the object appears like through the camera, but like on top of whatever surface you put it, like in the real world. So he put like an AR card on the table. He gave me a 3DS. I looked through it and there was a puzzle box there. And it was set up so even if you can move around the table and see the different angles of the box. And it was pretty cool. I don't remember if you used like the stylus or something, or try to move something like with your hand, even touching there or something. I don't remember how you control it, but I do remember that it was a really cool experience, and that I actually wish there was like any company like trying to do stuff like that, like, because the AR cards for the 3DS were, I guess, cool and all, but they didn't do much with them.
No.
And after seeing that, it was like, oh my god, there's so much potential. But like, you can actually like do stuff with this. And that's solid thought that passed through my mind, because like that is something that I think is like kind of like uncharted territory for most developers.
And see, that's why I feel like it's coming, because it reminds me of like, if Nintendo does this shit, it means it's going to hit at some point. Because Nintendo did the Virtual Boy and it tanked, and now look at goddamn virtual reality. You know what I mean? And I'm like, they're doing AR, they're experimenting with it, and it's just, you know what I mean? So like, again, I agree that like, this is so far off. I don't even know what it'll look like. It might not even be called that in the future, but I just think that like, if we can master virtual reality, I just don't see why we can't do this, you know? And maybe it'll be more of an experiential thing, but I don't know. I just think it'll be something. I do think control is going to really be revolutionized. I don't know. I could be totally wrong, but I do think, maybe not with augmented reality, but I do think that is something that is going to have a big change eventually, at least. Because when you think about it, it was revolutionized with VR. But
yeah, I think one-to-one tracking probably is the way that control is going. I remain incredibly skeptical about it being the AR direction, just because I think what you're talking about, the potential, the problem is how you fulfill that potential from a gameplay perspective. And I suspect that certainly for a long time to come, that's going to be insurmountable, no matter how good the technology gets, just from a gameplay perspective. But that segues quite nicely into where I sort of took this question, which is, I don't know if they were asking about technological stuff. Obviously, that's where both of you have gone. I'm actually quite excited more on the software side of things. So it's sort of been promised from PS3 to 4 and PS4 to 5. But in theory, the more compute power that you're giving these consoles, the graphics can only get so pretty. But in terms of AI, in terms of enemy behaviors, in terms of the flexibility that gives you to create things within those worlds, that make them feel and act and behave more realistically. That, I think, is the most exciting thing for me. To an extent, Cyberpunk hammers that home, not in the sense that people are not even that, because obviously people are complaining about the AI versus GTA 5, for example, but that isn't exactly what I mean. I sort of mean that Cyberpunk, in a sense, promised to be a step up in AI, whether that's marketing shortfall or whether that's something else. And I think that's where the most exciting things will be. So, some people were imagining that emergent AI, stories where it hasn't all had to be programmed by a developer. If you choose X dialogue option, then you're going to go down Y path, which Cyberpunk, for all the other things it does change and improve on and everything else, it is still linear in that sense. What I'm excited for is a future where either they can cram a lot more of that into a game of that scope, or even where they can put the initial building blocks in place. And what happens beyond that is completely emergent. From the AI output based on your input. That's where I'm really excited about development. I actually don't think control is going to change for a long time. I recognize what you say about the D-pad and the analog stick, but I think there's a reason that those controllers haven't changed massively, broadly speaking, in 4 or 5 generations. And I think it's because it's something that does about everything that people want it to, is relatively intuitive, is now standardized, and I think bar little tweaks like adaptive triggers, like the touchpad on the PlayStation controllers, like the various forays that Nintendo go into in terms of.
That's what I'm saying. Like, just careful, because Nintendo, you just never know what they're going to do.
Nintendo does weird shit.
That's true. I would love for them to have a concerted effort of putting the pointer technology from the Wiimote into a pro style pad, mainly because of what I was saying last week about flick stick gyro. I would love them to incorporate gyroscopic controls within that framework in a more meaningful way. I think that's the next iteration on the current control formula we've got. It makes the most sense. There's already implementations of it happening, and it sort of ties into VR in a way, if they can put one-to-one tracking in with it also. Maybe it's even a stepping stone in terms of you need that camera to do it. Maybe that's how they start sort of easing you into the setup. And by you, I mean the layman, not someone who's an enthusiast to the point that they would record and or listen to a podcast of this nature.
Right. Well, but this is what I mean too, right? It's like you said though, I don't think they're going to like abandon necessarily these other things, right? It's like it's about change. Like we're not, even VR when you think about it is iterative in a lot of ways, but it's also revolutionary in others, right? And so I think when you look even at like Oculus's controllers and stuff, it's just such a different control, but it's also coming from actually, you know, if you want to like kind of try to figure out where innovations are coming, look at like military tech and like training consoles and stuff, because like that's where a lot of the VR History of the Future is a really good book, by the way, that talks about the rise of VR and the kind of how Oculus sort of came about, which, man, that company is, anyway, a whole lot of stuff going on there, but it's fascinating because a lot of their technology, like VR, was being used in the military for ages, and it was just stupid expensive, but they got a lot of their controllers from that and stuff. So sometimes you find innovation in other friggin'
fields
that are spending tons of money.
That is,
like, I feel like some things that have being popularized by gaming to some extent may actually be applicable to other places too. Like, we're talking with my sister's partner here that he thought that VR, for example, could be like used on studies where you need people to do like certain tasks related to problem solving, and VR could facilitate that, for example, because like, let's say you want to have people navigate in a labyrinth, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Creating the software for that, it is way cheaper than actually building the facility.
Damn right.
So he said like that he saw potential on stuff like that, or even like I was watching Game Maker's Toolkit video about accessibility in games in 2020. And it kind of surprised me that, for example, The Last of Us, as much shit I've given to that game, like in other places, the one thing that I think it gets right is the accessibility options.
Oh yeah, the accessibility options in that game are nuts.
Yeah, there was even the story of this player that wasn't able to see, but since the game, if you press certain button, the game tells you like, oh, you're crouched at that distance and you can see that, for example.
Descriptive
and it was crazy. So imagine that to implement technology like that for people that cannot see.
Yeah, it's crazy to have it done on that level. Obviously, there's people like Special Effect who do bespoke stuff, and like you mentioned, Alex, the adaptive controller and things. But where it's standardized, it's super interesting.
I mean, it can be done in video games, but imagine like someone actually develops like a software or something for people who cannot see.
Ooh, that's like AR. That's a whole lot.
that would open a whole world of possibilities. I mean, I have seen people with disabilities like getting around just fine, but having that extra help, or even like there are things that your own senses can't tell you if you don't perceive them by other senses. So imagine like having something like that, or a little help like that. Like
it's actually a good point. Oh, sorry. I was just saying
because
oh God, no, go ahead, Paula.
Sorry, I've seen there's this gentleman that I always see when I go to uni, like up until the pandemic. But every morning he was like with his cane, like walking around, not much problem. But from time to time there was like a moment where someone had to tell them like, "Oh, careful, there's something different today."
You know, oh yeah.
So yeah, stuff like that.
Nice. Well, I was just gonna like add on to like bolster your point too. It's like most technological innovations, at least a lot of them, have been spurned or like or you know, not spurned, promoted by those with disabilities. Like for instance, you know, text to speech started as a way for those with reading difficulties, speech to text as those with difficulty, actually like mobile difficulties and typing. Yeah, all this kind of stuff. So many of these software things and hardware things have started in that way. And so like Rick, you sort of alluded to it too. A lot of these accessibility things might end up bringing really interesting features and stuff to us. But one thing too that I wanted to just really quickly mention, because you were talking about the AI thing, and I think that is a really interesting point because we're definitely not there yet. Because I think we've seen so many games, like even roguelites that try to do this, and like you know, No Man's Sky originally tried to do this, and like all of those games have had to go in and add like, you know, developer created things to it to make it sort of feel better. And then you get a game like Hades, which is like a roguelike, but the strength of it is the intricately crafted story, right? And so it's like
procedural assembly rather than procedural generation, where they've made chunks and then the AI fits it together. And this is where I'm sort of thinking, which is, and you're nodding along, that will get closer and closer and eventually become just the computer sort of puts it all together and in real time on the fly on its own kind of thing. And that's what I'm hoping for. And also beyond that as well, sort of on a wider thing, just briefly, like I'm quite keen for new innovations in gameplay as well. Like think of Battle Royale. Like obviously that's not a novel concept, but as it relates to games up until PUBG, that was absolutely novel. And then Warzone came in with the gulag and buybacks and fully changed the game that way. And I think when we're talking about innovations, we have to be mindful that an innovation doesn't have to be this multi-billion-pound silicon thing that we now have to pay through the nose to put in our home. It can be something simple and code-based that works within existing stuff we already have. And that stuff can sometimes be even more powerful because, just to tie it back into accessibility, everyone is able to get into it on the ground floor sort of thing. One thing on VR as well, you were talking about applications for that. Did you guys see the Russian cow story a little while back?
No.
No? Okay. So I think it was Russia, it was certainly somewhere in the Eastern Hemisphere, they started fitting cows with VR headsets, put them in a more pleasant environment, and milk production went up.
Dear Jesus, I see our future.
Oh my
where
God.
we are VR slaves.
The cows don't.
Yeah, right.
The matrix.
The cows are like, beautiful pastures. Oh yeah, we're screwed. We're so screwed. Capitalism is going to take that and just ride it to hell.
Oh my God.
You just
It is Ready Player One shit.
Yeah, that's hell right there. You've described him. Oh God. Well, I think that's a great way to end our discussion on that horribly dark note.
Thanks, Rick.
I'm just picturing myself. Yeah, produce for us, produce. And you're like, okay. Yeah, right. That's some Animal Farm shit there. Shall we move on to our favorite game? How Long to Beat?
How long to beat?
The game.
The quicker we move on, the better.
Yeah, is this your turn, Paula, to do the little wheel?
Oh, is it?
I think so.
Oh my God, I am not ready.
I mean, I can set it up. It's fine. I'll just whip it.
No, I'm all.
Nah, she got this. We're doing such good timing wise,
this.
and she can just edit this out if she wants, or leave it in, and people can see how the sausage gets made. All right, let's do it.
What the?
See how the leather's made.
There you go. Moo.
Let's randomize this. Oh wait.
Oh yeah, hide the stats. That's important.
What's this? No. Hidden stats. There. Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
Okay.
The game is Alien Storm from the Genesis.
Oh no! The Genesis.
I haven't got the first clue. Can you post some in fact, I'll just Google it.
Yeah, we can Google it. That won't tell us the times.
Yeah.
No.
Alien Storm. Oh, it was an arcade game too. Yeah. This is bad. A 1990 beat 'em up shooter arcade game by Sega.
Amazing.
Okay.
Oh no, the times are
Released
gonna be
on the Wii's Virtual Console in 2007 and in a collection for the 360 and PlayStation. But 1990. Dang. Oh boy. I don't know. I don't think it can't be that long.
This is the thing. I'm putting 5 hours everything because I'm convinced that all the times will be within the first 10 hours. And I think I may have found the game-breaking bug in our game by doing that.
If it's like this, yeah. I might go. Oh, because then it'll be within. I kind of want to do that too, honestly.
Exactly.
Hey, this might be the freebie for us this week.
This might be the freebie for us this week.
Because we changed the rules a little bit. Because we said now if you guess 2 times, you have 3 hours instead of 2 hours. Because we thought, it's a little more friendly. Honestly, Rick, I'm gonna do the same thing. I don't know if that's not allowed, but I'm doing 5 across the board because I also think that this is. I mean, it's an arcade shoot 'em beat 'em up. So like for me, there's just no way that the main campaign takes longer than like an hour. You know what I mean? Like especially from that era, they hardly made anything long enough. And it's a 1991. Yeah. Like I don't know. It was in the arcades. There's just no way it's long. I don't know. What do you think, Paula?
Yeah. I'm just gonna do the times for main and main plus because I'm not confident on 100% or on anything that is like shoot 'em up or anything like that.
That's my only worry, to be fair. If there's like multiple characters, 100% could be shafted here, but go on.
True.
I'm going with 3 hours for main story and 6 hours for main plus.
Ooh, okay.
No.
5 hours for main plus.
Okay.
5 hours main plus. Okay. I'm going to hit enter. Tell me you're all happy with those times, and then we'll go.
I'm happy. 5 across the board.
All right, Paula.
I think I'm happy.
Moment of truth.
Okay, let's see this thing. So, main story, 51 minutes.
Okay, nice.
Main extras, 2 hours.
Okay.
completed is 2.5 hours.
Yeah! We're all good.
Oh,
so that
you cheated yourself out of 2 points again, Paula. This is the theme.
Yeah.
This is twice it's happened now. Like you've net fallen further behind because you didn't want to go all in.
Should have went all in, girl.
I could have, yeah, but I could have.
That's all right.
I just wanted to be sure because I was sure I would have fucked it up.
Yeah, the standings right now is Alex 15, Rick 15, Paula 6. So you're getting there. I kind of want to.
Not that sort of a point.
Yeah, I kind of want to play this game now. Alien Storm.
Oh.
I wonder if it's any good. 65% rating. That's not bad. That's not bad. Maybe I'll pop this bad boy onto my Retroid and see what it's like. Come back and let y'all know.
Now's the time to do it. I might join you.
Yeah.
Wow. Find out next week if we actually follow through.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. That's been How Long to Be. Happy holidays for whatever you celebrate. And a Merry Christmas to all. And to all a good night.
Yes. Enjoy it as best you can, guys. We'll catch you later.
Yeah. Peace.
See y'all later. Peace.
Lovely jubbly.